So check out what I dragged home. I am now the proud new owner of this 1990s vintage, I believe it's a 96, John Deere F932, complete with a 60-inch hydraulically lifted mower deck. How cool is that? Now, I've been a fan of these John Deere commercial series mowers ever since I watched George Jones' music video, the Honky Tonk Song. He's actually driving this machine and he's trying to go down to the bar room. But, you know, obviously he's met with resistance from the local police. And who, of all people, arrest him? Junior Brown. So it's a pretty cool music video. Check it out. So these John Deere mowers are pretty cool. However, the one in the music video was actually an 1145. Now, they had a 24-horse diesel option or a 28-horse diesel option. Both were Yanmars. And I believe in the video, his was probably the 28-horse. And there was even an option for a 76-inch mower deck, which his might have had. It looked pretty big, but it's hard to tell. Now, that machine is totally cool. It's basically the same as this, but I've never been able to find one of those. So this is the closest thing that I've ever come across as far as the front mount mowers. They didn't give these things away when they were new, by the way. So anyway, I found this on Marketplace. Didn't have a lot of information on the ad, but it did say, make offer, runs. That's all it was. So I went and looked at it. Typically when someone says make offer, they have a number in mind that they want, but they're hoping that you make a higher offer. So I got talking to the guy. Says, what do you got to have for this machine? So he says 300. Give me 300. It'll drive on your trailer. I says, okay. So I showed up with my trailer and I got there and it ran fine. But as soon as you try to go forward or backwards, this is a hydrostat, so it's got forward and backwards pedals. As soon as you try to go forward or backwards, the ignition shuts right down. So it's something electronically wrong with it, which kind of irritated me because I drove all the way for nothing. I think it was like a 45-minute ride. But I said, I'm not leaving without it. I've made it this far. I can get it on the trailer, but I'm not going to give you 300. I'll give you 100 bucks. So we countered. We met in the middle at 200. So I thought that was a fair price because in another video of my Toro Groundsmaster that I made a couple months ago, I featured this on the end of the video. And the intention was to use this mower deck for parts for that mower deck over there, or replace this mower deck because that one's in hard shape. However, this whole machine is incredibly tight and in good shape. It's got a 3-cylinder gasoline engine, which actually runs like a top, and the mower deck doesn't engage. But I got looking, and these belts are just completely wiped out. No good, but the electric clutch does engage. So I just got to figure out why it doesn't go backwards or forwards. So I'm going to try to get that figured out, and we'll take you guys along for the ride. When I first opened the hood, I was kind of a little bummed out because it was a gas engine. But then I realized, hey, that's actually a pretty good motor. That's a little Yanmar. This is actually a 3-cylinder, 28-horse engine. It's a pretty good little power plant for this unit. I mean, that thing's beefy, and it's all self-contained. It's got its own little radiator, it's got its own little exhaust, everything is right there. So if I wanted to take this out and put it in something else, which I won't, but if I did, it would be super easy. Or if you guys could ever find one of these things, just know that they're a really good plant to borrow for something else. Gauge, and you can switch between the 2 tanks. That's a cool feature. So let me show you what this thing does whenever you try to move it. So it acts like the parking brake is stuck on, but in reality, it's not. So no matter what you do with the pedals, it just kind of dies. You can back it up better than you can go forward with it, but something's wrong with it. So I've been messing around with it for a little while, and I believe I might have found the issue. The seat safety is actually what they're calling a brake safety. So this is directly tied in with the PTO. It's tied in with the emergency brake and the forward and rear controls. So I'm going to try to jump that and see if that makes any difference. Alright, so I've got my little jumper wire here with the alligator clips. So that's continuing the loop for electricity. So that should be simulating someone in the seat, if the seat safety were working. So alright, now that we tested it out, that definitely was the problem. So I've gone ahead and ordered a new seat safety switch for this thing. But that still didn't solve the PTO issue. So I think we might have got lucky. It looks like the PTO is engaging. It's just that these belts are so stretched. And by the looks of things here, they've got this PTO shaft moves in and out. Looks like it constantly tensions with these springs. So I'm gonna put new belts on. Hopefully that'll solve our issue with the mower deck. Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be easy. All right, so I've gone ahead and removed the seat safety switch. And it's seized up, as you can see. It's probably just been in one position for way too long. So anyway, I'll show you why this thing wasn't working. Okay, so here this new switch is. This is a normally closed switch, so in the position that it is now, you can see we've got continuity. If we open that switch, you can see no resistance. So this switch is functioning the way it should. This is the old switch. As you can see, there's nobody home. Well, this switch, pretty much garbage. This is the new part number for that seat switch. I guess they're calling this a brake switch, even though it's on the seat. So this is related to all the parking brake and the PTO and everything else. So there it is. I believe this was around $21. So there's the new switch right there. That was a real simple install. This end just plugs together with the pigtail. So there we go. That was all that was keeping it from running and driving. Not running, just driving. I've got lawn equipment scattered everywhere. Winter is getting on here in Maine. It's December now. And I've got this bay in my shop here filled up with all my mowers. I'm getting ready to service these things and go through them and get them ready for springtime. If you guys watched any of my older videos, you'd notice this John Deere. I actually did I think it was like a 5-part video series on this thing. I found this thing, got a good deal on it, got it running. That thing has been super reliable. I put a lot of hours on this thing, and it's every time I use it, I fall more in love with it. These things are great. And you'll also notice the 932 is in here. I'm getting ready to put these belts on for the PTO. And it's kind of bumming a little bit because I noticed the alternator was a little loose and I was going to tighten it. This is the bracket that helps adjust the alternator. And in case you can't tell, I broke off a bolt. So it didn't even take hardly any torque to break that off. So now I've got to remove the alternator, and I can weld a nut on that broken stud there, and I should be able to get that out of there. But the bolt here on the bottom is also stuck. So I've got to bring a torch home and heat this up so I can get the alternator off to repair that before I can even get started on fixing these belts. So, a little setback, but, you know, that kind of stuff happens. At least it's in a warm, dry shop where I can actually work on this thing without having freezing cold fingers. And when I say nice and warm, I mean, you know, 50 degrees or so. I've been running the heater, and I finally got my old furnace, trailer furnace here, working, so the chimney isn't the best, so I use that only whenever I'm in the building. Alright, so we're going to attempt to get that bottom bolt out that's stuck in the alternator bracket. We do this without catching the thing on fire. Alright, so let's see if this little Bernzomatic torch could get that hot enough. Looks like the bolt is even turning. I really don't want to break that bolt because that'd be a long process to get that bolt out. Just because I'd have to pull the whole front cover of the engine off. Let's make sure to get that nice and hot before we strip that bolt or break it. Alright, so at this point, I'm not getting enough heat out of this one Bernzomatic torch. So I'm going to take 2 of them. Try to get this thing just as hot as I can, because I do not want to break that darn bolt off. Well, a regular Bernzomatic torch works okay in this situation, but I should have brought home the oxygen and acetylene torches, because those generate a lot more heat. I mean, it seems like I've got the bolt loose. It's just for some reason it gets stuck. Like it's only going 1/4 of a turn, so I guess just have to work it back and forth until it's out. Alright, so I got the alternator off. Good news. That's the bad news. I don't know what it was about that bolt, but it just felt like you'd get it a half a turn and it would bind right up. That's aluminum. So I really couldn't heat it up too much because I'd risk defacing it and then it would never be the same. So now I'm going to have to either drill that out or try to weld a nut to that and see if I can remove that bolt. This is like the worst outcome that possibly could have happened. So I really didn't want to make this into a long project because this machine really isn't worth all this time that I'm about to put into it. So, alright, now we got to figure out what to do about the mounting situation for that alternator. Bummer. I was hoping it would go a lot easier, but oh well, that's the way it goes sometimes. Alright, so to gain access to the belts, the PTO, I had to remove this cable. And essentially what this does is just keep the part of the PTO from spinning around. Now this is an electric clutch, so obviously you've got an electrical connection here you have to undo. Other than that, that just swings down out of the way. We should now be able to get these belts out of there. Now, underneath the machine here, you can kind of see the weird adjusting system that they have. They've got these little springs that hold constant tension on the belts, and those have to be loosened up for the belt to be released. Now it looks like someone has been in here and done the old 3-nut trick to gain a little extra clearance, probably because the belts are so stretched. So we're going to get those loosened up and see if we can get enough clearance to remove those belts. Alright, so I got all those weird nuts undone, and that's basically what we're dealing with here. That kind of floats there in the middle, and the spring tension is supposed to adjust those belts to keep them tight. There's one set of very roached belts. I installed just one of the belts real quickly just to kind of see what the alignment looked like, and it looks like this belt is not lining up properly. It looks like this pulley down here is back that way too much. It's not lining up with the pulley on the engine, so it's effectively doing this. You can look at the PTO clutch, and it looks like the rivet right here is going to hit the belt whenever it's tight. So that's not right. We're going to have to see what we can come up with a solution on how to make that work. It looks like that pulley has some shims in behind there. I'll have to do some more digging and see what's going on, why that belt is not lining up. Something is rotten in Denmark. Something is not lining up, and that's probably why the old belts were so chewed up. Alright guys, let me just show you the can of worms that I just opened up. I'm getting so frustrated with working on this thing. So first off, you'll see the PTO shaft down here. That's all fine and dandy. However, if you look in here where this engine plate is, you will see a hairline crack on the plate that holds this PTO bracket. So that would have went like this on the engine. So this piece here, basically a magnetic pickup that rides in this hole, was loose and it was touching the flywheel. And that crack that you see, I know it may be hard to see on camera, but where that crack is right in the middle of that bracket. So I'm going to have to probably take that whole bracket off the engine so I can repair that, and that looks like it's going to be quite a process. Alright guys, so I figured out why the PTO shaft was not lined up, or the pulleys weren't lined up with the engine. So that bearing is completely wiped out, and it looks like it's been loose on the shaft, so probably the shaft is destroyed. So this just keeps getting better and better. Now it looks to me like the pulley keyways are not lined up, and you can see it or not, there's a big stack of shims in between that pillow block and that pulley. So I'm sure there's something wrong with that. Alright guys, so check it out. I've got the 3-jaw puller on this pulley. Now this isn't ideal because it can crack the pulley like it's already done. This is just cast iron, kind of cheesy. It has holes with threads for exactly this purpose, and that would be great. However, someone has obviously been messing with this thing because these are all stripped out. So that's just my luck with this thing. So I'm trying to get this pulley off. It's going a little slow, but little by little, I think it'll come. Just little by little, this thing is actually moving. Alright guys, so this is starting to look expensive. This is the keyway, and as you can see, it's been rolled over, and the pulley here has several big cracks where this pulley has been turned on the shaft and rolled the keyway. So this pulley is effectively junk. I'm going to have to really look at the machine and see if it's worth putting more money into, because as of right now, I've only got $200 in this machine, and I'm going to have to see how much these things are actually worth. Because as of right now, I'm looking at pulling the motor. There's only 4 bolts that hold this whole thing in, And this whole thing will come out as a unit. So that way I could fix the bolt up front, and also I could fix the plate, because I'm going to have to pull the PTO and the flywheel off to fix that plate properly. So I'm going to have to do some serious searching and see if this thing's even worth fixing, because I know some of these old machines, when they get a certain age, it's just parts are really hard to find for them. And if you can find parts, they're very expensive. You know, eBay obviously is your friend. But this may turn into a parts machine. Another one, just like the Toro that I have out front. So anyway, we'll have to see what I figure out with this thing.